The night was silent, too silent for a city that never truly slept. The faint hum of hospital machines echoed down the corridor, flickering fluorescent lights painting the walls in pale, trembling shades. In room 407, two small hands clung to each other as if letting go would mean letting life itself slip away. Emma and Liam, 8-year-old twins who had shared everything since birth, lay in the same hospital bed, their frail bodies trembling under thin white sheets. They had been inseparable since the day they came into this world, and now, it seemed, they would leave it the same way. Nurses whispered outside the room, doctors moved quietly, but inside, all that existed was love, fear, and a pair of tiny hands refusing to part. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of love even beyond death, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. It helps us tell more stories that remind the world what truly matters. Their mother, Sarah, sat between them, her trembling fingers brushing through their hair. Her eyes were swollen from sleepless nights and endless tears. The doctors had said the infection was spreading fast, too fast, and even the strongest medicine wasn't enough. She had prayed, begged, and pleaded to every god she knew, but nothing could undo what had already begun. As dawn approached, Emma opened her eyes weakly, her lips quivering as she whispered, "Mommy, can I hold Liam?" Her voice was barely a breath, yet it pierced through the room like thunder. Sarah nodded, guiding her daughter's small hand toward her brother's. The moment their fingers touched, a faint smile crossed both their faces, two souls finding peace in each other. Minutes later, the heart monitors began to beep slower and slower until both lines ran flat, side by side. The room filled with the kind of silence that breaks something deep inside you. The nurses froze. Sarah screamed, a raw, gut-wrenching sound that no one could ever forget. "Et!" She threw herself onto the bed, clutching her children's cold, lifeless bodies, crying their names over and over again. The twins had left this world the way they lived in it, together, in each other's arms. The doctors tried to separate their bodies for examination, but something strange happened. Their fingers wouldn't come apart. It was as if their muscles had locked together in a final act of defiance against the cruelty of separation. It took over an hour of careful effort to finally separate them. And that's when the shocking thing happened. As soon as they were pulled apart, the heart monitor connected to Liam's body flickered. Just once. Then again, a faint blip appeared, followed by another. "It's impossible," the doctor whispered, leaning closer. Liam's small chest began to move, slowly but unmistakably. Everyone froze in disbelief. The little boy who had been declared dead minutes earlier was breathing again. Sarah's sobs turned into gasps of astonishment. She ran to his side, clutching his hand, crying his name again and again. Liam's eyes fluttered open, confusion clouding his gaze. "Where's Emma?" he murmured, his voice faint and trembling. The doctors exchanged helpless glances, unsure how to answer. Sarah hesitated, her lips trembling, her heart torn between joy and grief. She's sleeping, baby," she whispered, forcing a smile. But even as she spoke, she knew he understood. Tears rolled down his cheeks as his little hand reached toward the empty space beside him. "She said she'd come with me," he murmured before closing his eyes again. Over the next few weeks, Liam remained in the hospital under constant observation. His recovery was slow and mysterious, baffling the doctors who had no medical explanation for his sudden revival. Sarah stayed by his side every second, afraid that if she looked away, she might lose him too. At night, she would often wake up to find Liam sitting upright in bed, staring at the empty chair where his sister used to sit. Once she heard him whisper, "She's here, Mommy. She sits there every night." Sarah dismissed it as grief-induced imagination, until she started noticing strange things herself. Emma's favorite stuffed bear would often be found on Liam's pillow, though no one had moved it. The wind chime outside the hospital window would ring softly in the middle of the night, even when the air was still. Once, a nurse swore she saw a faint shadow of a little girl sitting beside Liam's bed, her hand resting on his shoulder. Liam began to draw pictures. Two children holding hands under a tree, one with a bright yellow dress and the other with blue shoes. "That's us," he would say softly, "but she says I have to stay." When Sarah asked what he meant, he explained that Emma had told him she wasn't allowed to come back, but she would wait for him until the tree grows tall enough to touch the sky. Sarah tried to smile, but her heart shattered each time she heard him speak that way. Months passed, and eventually Liam was allowed to go home. The house felt painfully empty without Emma's laughter bouncing through the rooms. Sarah kept Emma's room exactly as it was, the bed neatly made, her favorite drawings taped to the wall, her pink slippers still by the door. Liam often wandered into her room and sat quietly for hours, as if waiting for her to return. One evening, Sarah found him sitting on Emma's bed, holding her locket. Inside, it was a tiny picture of the two of them taken on their 7th birthday. Liam's eyes were filled with tears. "She said she misses you too," he whispered. Sarah froze. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" she asked softly. Liam looked up, his expression solemn. "She told me that when people love each other so much, they never really go away. They just change rooms." The innocence in his voice made Sarah's heart ache. She pulled him close and cried silently into his hair, wishing she could believe that as easily as he did. Abrahi, but deep D. Own. Something inside her began to change. Every morning she would open the curtains in Emma's room and talk to her out loud, telling her about Liam's progress, about the neighbors, about life. Sometimes she could almost feel warmth in the air, as if someone was listening. As Liam grew older, his bond with his sister's memory never faded. On the anniversary of Emma's death, he insisted on visiting her favorite park, the one with the tall oak tree they used to play under. Sarah agreed, though the thought of it made her chest tighten. When they arrived, Liam ran ahead, carrying 2 small paper kites. He tied them together at the strings, smiling as the wind carried them high above the tree. "Now she can fly with me," he said proudly. Sarah stood there, tears streaming down her face as the 2 kites danced together in the open sky. But that night, something strange happened again. Sarah woke up suddenly around 2 a.m., sensing movement in Liam's room. She walked in quietly and froze. Liam was sitting on his bed, his face calm, his hands resting on his lap. "She's calling me, Mommy," he said softly. Sarah's heart stopped. "No, sweetheart. You're just dreaming," she whispered, trying to sound calm. But Liam shook his head. "She says it's time for her to go higher now. She says thank you for letting me stay." Before Sarah could respond, Liam's eyes closed. His breathing slowed. She screamed his name, shaking him, begging him to wake up. The ambulance came within minutes, but it was too late. Liam's heart had stopped, just as peacefully as Emma's had that night in the hospital. In his hand, clutched tightly, was Emma's locket. On his nightstand lay a note written in his shaky handwriting. "Don't be sad, Mommy." She said the tree finally touched the sky. Sarah's grief this time was beyond words. She buried both her children side by side just as they had always wanted. The cemetery was quiet except for the sound of wind brushing through the trees. As the sun looked up and saw something that made her heart pause. A pair of butterflies, one yellow and one blue, fluttering together above the twin gravestones before disappearing into the horizon. For the first time in months, Sarah smiled through her tears. Somewhere deep in her soul, she knew her children were together again, free, happy, and safe. In the years that followed, Sarah dedicated her life to helping parents who had lost children. She started a foundation in Emma and Liam's name, offering support and comfort to grieving families. People often asked her how she managed to stay strong, and she would always answer the same way, because love doesn't die, it just changes form. Every spring, she returned to the park with 2 kites, one yellow, one blue, and watched them soar together, and every time she did, the wind seemed to whisper her children's laughter back to her. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps us keep creating stories that remind us how precious life, love, and connection truly are. Before you go, tell us in the comments, do you believe that love can exist beyond life and death? Because somewhere, in the quiet corners of this world, maybe 2 small souls are still holding hands, teaching us that even when the body fades, love remains eternal.